everyone. I am so happy you guys today, and I hope you enjoyed the film block that you all just watched. And I am actually going to be bringing up the filmmakers one at a time to introduce their film. And as soon as our stage is full, we'll go right into the questions. So I'm going to bring up our first filmmaker, Eric. Come on down to the stage.
Hey, Christina, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you, Eric? Go ahead and introduce yourself and your film.
So my name's Eric, and my film is called Melted, and the director is here as well. His name's Vincent, and he's in the room too.
Oh my
Vincent
gosh, let's
Pastore?
bring Vincent up to the
Great.
stage.
Wonderful.
Yes. Vincent, come on up to the stage.
Yes, hi. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, so Vincent's the director of the film. It was sort of a passion project because about a guy that's obsessed with chocolate, and I have been obsessed with chocolate for many years. And the guy in the film loses a loved one. I did not, but I was really thankful that the team came together and that Vincent brought his artistic vision to the film as well and made it what it was.
Awesome. Well, I'm great. I'm happy that you guys are here, and let's go ahead and welcome Ralph to the stage. He is another one of our filmmakers that had a film in the block.
Hi, I'm the director of and the writer of the Artifact.
Hello. Welcome to the
Can you hear
stage,
me?
Ralph.
I think all my stuff is on. Okay,
Yes.
good.
There's like a little echo, but we can hear you.
Let's see. Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll keep the microphone closer.
Awesome. All right. And then I also see Russ. Russ, I'm going to go ahead and invite you up to the stage.
Oh, it worked. Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Great. I hope this looks okay.
Yes, we're so happy to have you up on stage. All right, give me just a moment. All right, and let's see. We are going to make sure we have everyone. So what did you guys think of like the film block and everything? Let's go ahead and just start with that. Let's start with Russell. What did you think of the film block?
It was
with the films.
It was good. I mean, I appreciate that, you had us in here. And
yes, and you know what, actually I want to kick off the questions with, you actually made your film because you were inspired by COVID. Is that correct? Like, because your film is about a woman that's quarantined. So would you share with us a little bit about what motivated you to make this film?
Well, the long story short, I actually invested in a camera package at the beginning of this year before COVID even struck. And then COVID struck, and then all the filming was shut down. So with this camera package, with my filmmaking partner, Emil Harris, we wanted to kind of test it out. And we're thinking, you know what can we do during COVID? And we're thinking we should do something that's a little bit quarantine themed, but with a twist. And that's what the film is. There's a twist to it. It's a horror film. And so we got my actress named Paige Laurie Posel, and she's not part of the Screen Actors Guild. So, because SAG was shut down at that point. And she came over to this place, which is my condo, which is where we filmed. And
awesome.
we did this film, and, then for the third act, we were thinking outside the box, and because we couldn't really film outside, we had my friend Dave Beatty, who draws for like DC and Marvel Comics, and he drew the third act of the film. And so basically that's how it all came together. And then, I love cats, so I put a cat theme in there. So that's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. How about Vincent and Eric? What was the motivation? I mean, Eric, you kind of mentioned it. You love chocolate, but how did you guys actually go ahead or when did you guys make the, I guess the story behind it? Because other than this man loving chocolate, I know that it's, there are other facets to the film.
Mm-hmm.
And where was the inspiration for that from?
That's a great question. So we made the film, we shot at the end of January 2020. And we had it we had final cuts early March, I think, and then shutdown happened. So I became obsessed with chocolate because of a girl.
Uh-huh.
And I was sending this girl basically a love letter once a month with a different bar of chocolate, and she never responded. By the time this was happening, I knew her previous. It's a long story, but anyway, I didn't want to send her the same bar of chocolate every time, so I started exploring all the different types of chocolate bars that were out there, all these single origin bars from different places around the world. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, so she never responded to the chocolate letters.
Oh no.
I'm kind of hoping that I ruined dark chocolate for her for a little while because of that, because she never responded. But then in the process, I really became fascinated with these people who were making chocolate bars out of 3 ingredients and how they tasted so different when they all had the same 3 ingredients in them. And Vincent, I don't know if you can pitch in with what drew you to the story, or.
Well, Eric came up to me with that story, and I thought, oh, it's a nice cat.
Go cat.
We just saw a documentary about pets, so I feel a connection to your pet right now. Eric came up to me with that story, and I thought, what a wonderfully weird but lovely story. And I thought, there's something. It's not the type of story I would usually write because I'm drawn to darker things. But one thing that really interested me about it was the idea that there could be a poetic metaphor somewhere in there where, the chocolate could be the loss of a loved one or the loss of something. And I thought that attracted me as a director to the project.
Very interesting. All right. How about you, Ralph, with your film?
The Artifact?
This is definitely very different from some of the stuff that you've done in the past. So tell us a little bit about this film. And Ralph is one of our Ralph and both Russell are alumni filmmakers. So we're great.
Hi,
it's great to have you guys back.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. So I didn't see all the films. I got into the middle of the block because I was part of that pitching session. So I got in there late. So I didn't see the one on chocolate, but I have to. What's the title of your film, Eric and Vincent?
Called Melted.
Melted. Okay, I'll watch it on demand. Okay. So what got me thinking about the film? Well, I wanted to do something challenging within a sci-fi. I want to do something with special effects. So I really wanted to do something challenging and manipulate sense of time. So the shot that there's a time lapse shot, which is really a composite shot of 5 different shots composited. Wanted to think something outside of the box, right? So I think it was some technical challenges that challenged me, and I want to sort of tell the story within kind of the neuroscience and the mystery of it. I don't know if I'm telling the story correctly.
So you all some questions that I had for you guys just generally is, have you guys with your films, have you guys gone to different film festivals, and if you have gone to different film festivals, what were some of your experiences at the different film festivals? Because I know that right now, we have this film festival, and it's really for filmmakers. It's like a filmmaker festival, and we want to know which film festivals had like great value for you and for you as a filmmaker, and for promoting your film. And so I'm going to go ahead and let's start with Russ. I know, Russ, you're making films, which is great.
Yeah.
I feel like that's, kind of like the goal of every filmmaker, right? Always be creating. So, so what were some of your favorite film festivals? Because there's so many that it's easy to just kind of get lost in the film festival, like world. And so, yeah, if you could share your experiences.
For this film? For this film or my previous film?
No, in general. In general.
Oh, for I think Silicon Valley accepted. Was it? Did you accept? I'm sorry. Was it Occupants or The Assassin's Apprentice?
Yes, Assassin's Apprentice.
Okay, so with The Assassin's Apprentice, I was happy. We did a screening at. It's called the Independent Filmmaker Showcase, and that was our world premiere for that film. And the reason I was happy is we actually we were a late submission, and we got in and we won an award. And I was happy for my producer, Paul, because he's never had that kind of experience. And this is pre-COVID though. This is not like, I think honestly, this format, I've never seen this before. This is very fascinating.
Isn't it? Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I actually love it. It's nice and green. But yeah, but he for him, and his wife was there, his daughter was there. It was a screening at, I think, the Grove in Los Angeles. And so he had this, it was a very nice event for him. I was just very happy for him for that. Yeah, so that's one of my experiences. But I just did a screening for another one of my films at the Valley Film Festival, and they had a drive-in. They had a drive-in movie experience, and that was really fascinating. Basically, you just park your car, and they screen the image on the side of a Regal or some kind of theater, because obviously you can't screen in the theater. Yeah, they screen it on the side of the building itself. And
oh my gosh, people got so creative during this time.
Yeah. So that's my experience.
The artifact was accepted into a Shortcut 100, which is a Chicago-based film festival. And normally it was, thank you. And normally it was, I've been to the film festival 2 years ago with a different film. And it was a Logan Theater, which is a really like a cool theater in Chicago. But this time around, they had to get creative. So it was kind of a hybrid format. The films were online, like on demand, like what you have over here. But also, I remember the film was displayed outside in, I think it was like, I want to say late September or October. And in like this garden, there was just a bunch of plants. We set it on like next to the plants. We're sitting on like, gardening accessories and tools. And then they just displayed it on the wall, and it worked fine. It was like, I think it was like 35 degrees.
Oh my God.
But we had our jackets and we had coffee, and we watching several film blocks.
So, are you in Chicago? Is that where you're located?
Yes.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Are you in Chicago too?
No. But I was just figuring like, wow, you flew to Chicago during COVID for the festival. That's amazing.
I'm in Chicago.
Cool.
And how then about you, Vincent and Eric?
Yeah, I'll let Vincent speak for himself. But this festival is the world premiere of Melted.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
And so
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very, very, very grateful that you guys chose to show our film here with these other filmmakers and their work. And I've made one other film before that did not get into any festivals at all. So this is my first film festival as a filmmaker.
Awesome. That's so great.
Congratulations.
So, and Vincent can speak for himself.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually my first film festival as well. So
great, it's you guys.
I'm more on I've been focusing more on the screenwriting side, so I've been making it into several screenwriting competitions this year. It's actually been a pretty good year for me on that end. But as far as film festivals go, this is the first one, and it's going great so far. So, yeah.
No, and I think that that's something that, like, I'm a filmmaker as well, and I think that that's something that we as filmmakers, we've all experienced, the rejection, submitting our films to certain festivals and it just not, getting accepted, and that disappointment. And I just think that, this should, serve as like, a story of hope, that you really shouldn't give up. And the thing is, like, I know the films that I made, like the very first film that I made versus the film that I made, like, recently, I mean, it's like night and day. The more you create, the better you get. You learn, who you work with really well. You learn little tips and tricks. You learn, when you go to festivals like this and you have conversations and you meet other talented filmmakers, it's like you learn so much about the craft. When you make a film the next time around, it's even better, And so I think it's great. I think that that's so great that you guys are here. Let's switch gears to funding for just not even just this film, but funding in general for just your films in the past. What have you guys done in terms of funding? Like, how do you guys raise the money to make your film? And we'll go ahead and we'll start with Ralph.
Okay, so the artifact, I have to admit, this is the first time that actually somebody other than myself gave me money to make a film. So it was a kind of a change of pace. Basically, I had several producers, and they each chip in some amount of money. But in the past, I'm also a videographer, so I have my own equipment. I do all my post-production, so I kind of learn everything, kind of do stuff on my own.
Yeah.
But this time around, the artifact, the challenge was that we had more actors, more locations. And actually, the majority of the money that I spent was like food, transportation, things like that. We had a full day of production. Next thing you know, you're spending $200-300 just to feed people, a couple Ubers, things like that. So you have 3-4 days of filming. That's like, $1,200, $1,300, $1,500. So it's money that it was good to have that kind of money, to have that spending money on these little things.
And Russ, how about you?
Well, it's so it's kind of ironic with this film. It just cost $250.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Because my other films have been quite a lot more. And up to this point, so again, Routine was a camera test film, and it turned out to become bigger. That's what it was. Now, I've done 5 feature films before, and we've raised it with private capital. We raised it with Indiegogo, with Kickstarter, whatnot. But this was literally a camera test, and it turned into something that I'm very happy that your film festival accepted. So thank you for that. But it was $250, literally. Just shooting at my place, and I think I spent $100 for music and $150 for the design of the third act. The comic.
I loved the comic part. That was probably like my favorite.
Oh, thank you. But I was pulling favors though from people that I worked with in the past. My composer of my features. My comic book artist for my feature occupants. So What's funny is now we actually filmed a sequel called Staycation. And we actually filmed at Envisionate Studios in Burbank in November during COVID, which is an experience in itself. But this one, because of Routine, I was able to raise private capital from several investors. And we were able to attach Olivia Dabo she was in Star Wars. She was in Star Trek. She was in Conan, Wonder Years and whatnot. But I was really, really honored to work with her. And so basically Routine started this. And thank you again for accepting it, because Routine started this thing that my investors got behind, and they put faith in me and then my team and whatnot. And we were able to film, and now we're in post-production. So anyway, that's it. That's yeah.
Vincent, Eric, how about on your project?
Yeah. So I think Melted we had this original concept, and the budget was, it was a far different concept, and the budget was like $30,000, I think, when we worked out.
There's like a much longer version of of that story. It was like a 20.
There was dancing, and there was
it was like
a musical.
It's kind of like a Mrs. Maisel type of thing, but still
yes.
Within the concept of chocolate and love and whatnot.
And so and I mean, that was also drew inspiration from another failed romance in my life. And the but basically, so this ended up coming in around $8,000 or $9,000. And what happens is I work all year and then save up money and then spend it on the film, and then
that's awesome.
hire talent. I hire talent that I can prey upon because they're also my friends, and say, hey, can I pay you a pittance and then have you, so Vincent, I think we paid him about 1/10 of what he would charge for a normal director's fee. And then he contributed his editing, sound mixing, and Foley artistry for free.
That's great.
Along with a couple. So yeah. So it's Eric's savings account plus many favors is how we do our film. How I've done my films. Yeah, and I know that Vincent, you raised money for a past project in a different way, I believe.
I have crowdfunded before for past films. Yes. It wasn't really a success in the case of my first crowdfunding for a short film. It was a big learning experience. And then I participated in several other crowdfundings for other people's projects, and that actually helped me learn a lot about crowdfunding and what makes it work and what makes it not work. And there are definitely certain projects that are fit for that and others that are not, and it's good to know.
That's right. Actually, Vincent and I both worked on a feature film that we helped raise about $250,000 for, and it was equity investment through a fund called Microventures, a platform called Microventures, where people can, for a minimum contribution of $100, earn equity in the project.
It's still crowdfunding, but it is a different type of of
it's like venture. It's like it's equity crowdfunding.
You know, it's so funny. That sounds exactly like a platform that I was sharing with my filmmakers. It's called WeFunder, and it's like you buy equity into a project. And if you actually go to the platform, it's not just films, that you source for, but it's like they have all kinds of inventions, they have all kinds of stuff, and you're essentially buying into the company, and just like you're buying into the movie, which I think is really interesting. But yeah, actually, I'm so glad you guys brought up the whole crowdfunding campaign because your experience with it, because I was wondering if you all could share your experience with crowdfunding, because I know that a lot of the filmmakers that are here, they're pitching their next project and they're looking to raise money. And I know, especially with Russ too, you said that you have crowdfunded, for your past films as well. So let's go ahead and start with Vincent and Eric. Well, you guys were talking about raising $250,000 for a project. Like, what were some of the things that you guys learned about crowdfunding, and like what makes a successful crowdfunding campaign versus one that will not succeed?
I think.
For this particular platform, Microventures, the platform has an audience that loves to contribute to projects on the platform.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
I think
that's very cool.
A large portion of investors were strangers that love the platform, and it's a lengthy vetting process for the platform to pick up your project. Our lawyer got us into a fancy investment event full of high net worth individuals, and I struck up a conversation with one of them, and he gave us $100,000.
Oh my gosh, that's just
Yeah.
crazy. What does he do? What did he do for like a living?
He brags a lot is what he does, but I don't know how he made his money. But I think in just different business deals, real estate, who knows? But then as far as more conventional types of crowdfunding, I have less experience, and Vincent might be able to speak to those more accurately.
Yeah, I think the first thing that someone should try to do if they want to do crowdfunding is hire a crowdfunding consultant to help you out.
Oh.
I think that's the first step, and that's key. If there's money to be put somewhere in a crowdfunding campaign, it would be definitely in getting someone who is used to doing this, and who we actually had a phone call when we were trying to do Melted as a longer project before we decided to shift to a shorter one. We had a phone call with the Kickstarter guy who was kind of famous in that area, and just the phone call with him was super helpful. And I feel like that just will help propel your campaign and get it to the next level. I think that's really helpful. And then I think also you want to think about which platform. I think that's the next question you should be asking. I'm very fond of Seed and Spark, personally.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But it depends. I like it because it's film focused and it's not other things, so you're not competing against, the startup coming up with a new thing that has nothing to do with film. So Seed and Spark, I say, is my go-to. But yeah, those would be my two main insights. Get a crowdfunding consultant that will help you, and choose the right platform for your project.
I guess my follow-up question is, what is the benefit of having a crowdfunding consultant? Like, what were the things that Kickstarter consultant told you that you were like, oh, wow, like, that's really helpful. Oh, okay. Like, I didn't think to do that.
Well, so
like, what were like some examples?
I think Eric and I, when we were picturing crowdfunding, we were thinking, okay, we're probably going to get a lot of money from people we know and things like that. And that consultant kind of shifted our perspective a little bit. And it was like, it's not necessarily true. And he really gave us a few principles that were really helpful. Like, I remember him saying, you need, I can't remember what he called them. I think he called them something like advocates. Or you need like 2 or 3 advocates, people that are going to be posting about your projects that are not you every day on your social media.
Oh, every day.
Yeah, basically, like the takeaway that what I took away from that conversation, among other things, were that to have a successful crowdfunding campaign, assuming you're raising more than just a couple $1,000s, where your closest friends and family will contribute and meet the goal, it's going to be at least a part-time job for you. And you will need a team around you for whom it will also be a part-time job. And while you are crowdfunding, the other aspects of your development or pre-production will need to wait, because you will be spending all of your time and energy managing the marketing of your crowdfunding campaign. And then I think that the other takeaway I took from that conversation was that he spends several months preparing for the campaign and building interest before the campaign is ever launched. Those are some of the things that I took away that I recall.
And it doesn't need to be a team of like 10 people. It's like, I think 3 or 4 people are enough to do that. And it was a really interesting conversation. And I think one other thing he mentioned is that a crowdfunding consultant would come up with ideas that you may not have about how to create incentive, like things like, there's this perk for a limited amount of time, so you can only get it now, and that will push people to donate to the film to get that specific perk. And the consultant will probably tell you when to advertise that perk at a key moment of your campaign. I think that's really helpful.
That's very fascinating. Russ?
Crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is, in my book, a necessary evil. It's so I have personally run, I think, maybe 2 campaigns. I'm actually running one for the post-production stage of Staycation right now, and as Eric and Vincent was saying, it's very tiring. It is definitely a part-time job. And yes, you should have somebody, a team. So right now there's this wonderful lady named Angela who runs these, campaigns, and she's basically helping me, and she's publicizing on social media all over on a site that I don't even know called Twitch. I mean, there's like different sites. I don't even know because I'm really a tech dunce, to be honest. But yeah, it's but basically, the way I look at it is you have to become like a digital door-to-door salesman. And you really, I got to a point in my career that I've made enough films, and I've actually directed actors like Olivia and, other like Star Trek actors and whatnot. So, I have like a Star Trek following, I guess, if you will, who will, if I say I have a Star Trek actor on, then, they will contribute to the campaign for that very reason, because they want to see their Star Trek actor, So, I've been fortunate in that respect. But that said, like today I drove to pick up a contribution because they didn't know how to donate it themselves on Indiegogo. And that's fine. And I'm willing, I'm happy to do that. And, you have to give these nice perks, So we're creating like an in-universe, logo that was used in Staycation, in the sequel to Routine, and we created called El Gato cigarettes. And so it's a take on like Morley's from the X-Files, Morley's cigarettes that the smoking man kept smoking throughout the series. So, it's kind of an in-joke. And I said I love cats, and I really do. So there's a cat in there, and El Gatos is a cat smoking. So, but basically, you create these fun perks, and, I like to have fun when I'm sure every filmmaker here, they just want to have fun when you're actually making a film. So, you put these little in-jokes in, and, people who contribute, they like this kind of stuff. Now, I did do crowdfunding. You were saying, I think Eric was saying that it becomes like, your own, like a job, so like you can't focus on pre-production, right? You have to focus on just doing the crowdfunding. So I said, you know what, I'm going to try to avoid that for production. So that's why I got private investors, and I was lucky to get those private. But then the goal was to do, for post, to do the crowdfunding. That's where the not so fun part of it comes in. So I decided to save the best for last, and I'm having a blast not doing crowdfunding right now. But yeah, that's, I meant you could do it post-production. I've done it before, pre-production, but it really is just a lot of work.
Yeah.
Ralph?
Yeah. So I think I'm at the very end of the continuum of this conversation, because I tried Speed and Spark once, and I watched the videos, and on my end, I did my best, but it was like a colossal waste of time, and I didn't get anywhere. So not to be negative about crowdfunding, but I think there's a certain skill to it, and I have to appreciate it. If I were to do it again, I would definitely I'd rather hire somebody and just say, here, you take a percentage of what you raise. And I actually tried it, but the person turned out to be not very reliable, and it didn't go anywhere. So I recognize that what I want to sort of, the message I want to sort of leave over here is that it's not something that, I have a lot of friends, they're going to pitch money, and you push this project, and you have to put the work into it, and you have to have the skill. I found that, for example, why should I raise $5,000 for some sort of post-production? I think it's easier for me to just go on YouTube and learn some of the post-production tools, get the gear, and learn it myself, because I'm better at that, but I'm really terrible at the crowdfunding. Is just not a skill that I have.
No, that's very insightful. You know what's actually really interesting too? So I was, it's our spotlight feature, Coming Home Again. I'm sure you guys have seen it all over the schedule. The reason why it's the spotlight feature is because I'm in it. And the thing is with this film, it's really crazy. There are some people in the audience who were attending our Q&A, our other Q&As with the other filmmakers. But with Coming Home Again, it was just the craziest thing because I had gotten cast for that movie through a YouTube audition that I put up for Crazy Rich Asians when they had their casting call. And a casting director's assistant found my audition on YouTube, and she presented me to the casting director. And this casting director she worked frequently with Wayne Wang, who's the director of the Joy Luck Club and Made in Manhattan. And he actually lives in San Francisco. And so this casting director found my YouTube audition, stalked me online and found my email address, because everything's out there, right? And I feel like everything should be out there. You should want to get contacted, right, for these type of reasons. And, she was like, can you be in Nob Hill, at this hotel to meet with Wayne Wang in an hour because he's having his meetings right now? And I was like, okay. And mind you, I'm 3 months postpartum with my first child. I had just given birth and I was at home. And so I just jumped in an Uber, I left, the baby with my husband, and I just went. And the reason why I share that story is because when I was on set, I met Justin Chon. He was the lead of this movie. And Justin Chon, if you don't know him, he, was in Twilight. He was in those Twilight, the movies with Kristen Stewart. And he's done a whole bunch of other stuff within Hollywood, but he's actually stepping out and being a director. And he had a film called Gook that premiered at Sundance. And he also had another film, Miss Purple, that also screened at Sundance. So he is all about, making his own films. And he did a whole bunch of crowdfunding. And what's really, really interesting is with him, whenever he puts out a crowdfunding campaign, he always raises so much money. He always reaches his goal. And I think a lot of it is because he not only brings his star power, which he has. So that's another thing that you all may want to consider, putting in that money to hire maybe somebody that has a name or a network, that definitely helps in crowdfunding campaigns. Because do they have a following, just like Russ shared, with the Star Wars following, if they cast this actor, then everybody's going to give a little bit of money. But with this actor, Justin, some of the perks that he had was, if you give $1,000, right? If you give $1,000, then you'll have a video session with me and we'll collaborate together on future projects, right? Oh, cool. And the thing is, for filmmakers, or people who want to break into the industry, for actors, for aspiring actors, they are going to they're going to scrap together $1,000 and give to that campaign specifically for that perk, So it's that's just kind of something for you all to think about. I know this session is being recorded. So for people who listen to this, in the future, for a crowdfunding campaign, those incentives are very, very powerful in terms of getting people to want to collaborate with you and, work with you in the future, so that's my experience with crowdfunding. And, I followed his crowdfunding campaigns, and I'm telling you, every single time, whenever he had those perks, and they were all sold out, it was $1,000, $5,000. It was amazing to me how many people, and this isn't these aren't millionaires. These are just everyday people, that just, they get their money and they give to that because they want to have the opportunity to work with him, be associated with him. It's very interesting.
Yeah, but I think it returns to the same thing. You have to have, I think, some draw that you can sort of get these perks, and put a lot of work into it.
Yes,
and some skill. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a skill to be able to do these campaigns.
Yes,
which some of us like me don't have.
But that's why we have these conversations, because I feel like it's through having these conversations, it's like it's very educational. You're kind of like, oh, I didn't think about that. That's really interesting. Maybe I'll try that. And it's kind of like filmmaking, you know, it's like the more you do it, you learn something, and then you end up becoming more and more successful later on down the line, right? But at this point, I want to actually give our audience an opportunity to ask a question. So if you want to ask a question, feel free to go over to our Q&A and just type a question. And, you know, I want to do something a little bit different with our Q&As. I actually like inviting the people in our audience up to the stage to ask the question to you guys versus just reading the question, because I feel like it's a lot more personal. And so, yeah, it's like, while we wait to see if anybody has any questions in the audience, I guess, what are you all working on next? You know, what are some projects that you're working on next? What's next in the pipeline for you all? And we'll go ahead and we'll start with Russ.
Well, I did mention Staycation, but yeah, that's ongoing right now. Also, there's another film called The Assassin's Apprentice 2. So we're doing Paul decided to do a sequel. And the first Assassin's Apprentice, just FYI, there were Star Trek actors in there. Marina Sirtis, who was Counselor Troy, and Robert Picardo, who was the doctor on Voyager. So the second one has Armin Shimmerman, who was Quark on Deep Space Nine. Gary Graham, who was, I think, Vulcan Ambassador Saval in Star Trek Enterprise. We just, we actually filmed right before COVID in the Canary Islands for part of the film. Yeah, we actually, so I got a free vacation out of it, which was kind of cool. Yeah. So thank you, Paul, if you're listening to this. Thank you so much. But yeah, I never thought, it was never on my bucket list to go to the Canary Islands. I didn't even know where the Canary Islands was. I thought it was the Cayman Islands. So, so now I know it's off the coast of Africa. But it was fascinating just to do that. And, we're actually, in the editing phase right now on that. So that's happening. Staycation's happening. So those are the two projects I'm working on.
Great. And Vincent?
I have a couple scripts right now that I'm entering through several competitions. One of them is a pilot that made it to the top 50 of the Launchpad competition this year.
Oh, great.
So I'm really excited about that with my co-writer. And also I'm producing a lot of content right now. I've invested in a lot of equipment to film on my iPhone and film at home. Try to not let lockdowns and the pandemic, kill your creativity, and just stay at home and just try to do it there and come up with ideas to tell stories. So I've been just posting a lot of stuff on YouTube. I posted a video today, which is a film review of Tenet, and doing a podcast as well. So yeah, trying to keep being creative.
Great.
Awesome.
And Ralph?
And I'm trying to turn The Artifact, the short film, into a feature film. So I'm finishing up the feature script. Ooh. And we're doing a lot of prep work to figure out, raising money, and I'm putting a team together of people that can bring this project to completion. And hopefully maybe in a year it will be done, year and a half. And also we did another short spec for another film called Bless Me, Father, for I Have Sinned. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a thriller. And, that's we're going to try to raise money for that as well to do another feature. So 2 feature dreams, I guess, in the pipeline.
That's awesome. So what's your spec about? Like, it's the thriller. What's that specifically about?
So it has to do with a man comes in for a confession, sits with a priest, and tells the priest that he's sitting on a bomb, and wants the priest to confess his sins that he has committed against this man 2 or 3 decades ago.
Oh my gosh!
Basically, it has to do with abuse by the priest.
Oh my gosh!
But it's much more complicated than that, because then the cops come in, and there's a police that covers things up, and it's one of those things that it's in a church, in a confession booth, and there's just outside cops around. It's kind of like in the moment type of a thriller. So Will, the guy that was So Will, you met him, right? The guy that was with me. He's the one that wrote that script.
Oh, he wrote it.
He would he wrote it, and hopefully I'll be directing it. And so we'll see what comes first, the artifact or the Bless Me Father.
So, you know what? I have a question for you all. So when you guys think about your future projects, like projects that you guys want to work on, I know, Vincent, you are a screenwriter, so you are the one who writes a lot of your scripts, right? Mm-hmm. But how else do you all find your inspiration? Like Ralph and Russ, like, do you guys like hire screenwriters? Like, do you guys ever like have these crazy ideas? And do you have like a screenwriter friend that you go to that you're just like, I have this idea? Like, what is the process? Russ?
Well, 2 words. His name is Emil Harris. He's the writer. He's the writer side of the filmmaking.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So basically, he wrote Routine. He wrote Staycation. He was actually the DP of both too. Gosh. So he's just basically. I know my strengths and I know my not so strengths, and writing is one of them. And I tried it once and failed miserably. So I just rely on him.
So when you have an idea, you just go to him and you just go, this is what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm. But most likely he comes up with the brilliant idea. So he came up with, basically it's a horror film, as you saw, Routine, and then the twist is it's the zombie. Yep. But we want people to think it's COVID. So he's very good with the twists, and Staycation is continuing that formula, but on a bigger scale, of course, than Routine. So yeah, that's he's really good at that, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty fascinating. And then we work together to bring it to life.
How did you meet him?
I met him at UCLA Extension courses in 2001 or 2002, and then we collaborated on 2 short films. One of them was called Girl with Gun. And it got into like Comic-Con, and it basically it was because of that film that my producer of my feature films, Howard Nash, he hired me to direct the first of 5 features. Oh. And I was just privileged to be able to work with somebody like Howard and also with Harris. So yeah, just it's like a team. It's a family.
Yeah. Ralph, how about you?
So half of my projects, half of them I wrote and half of them I did not write. So sometimes a script is given to me because of sort of the network that I work with, some of the actors, and they know writers. Yeah. Will, for example, the person that was pitching with me, he wrote this really interesting, very, the Bless Me Father, there are many psychological layers that could be explored with and I proposed to him how I would like to approach that film. So he liked it. So we sort of formed a team. And the artifact, for example, it's one of the things that grew slowly. First, it was just a small concept. Then I wrote a short. And then I started thinking about it a little bit more. And I'm starting to build a bigger world within which these characters live. The characters are getting bigger. And as I was explaining to somebody else, like when you write a script, it's not always about writing from a computer. You're writing all the time. You just have to get in the mode. You might be on your bike and you're like, now I know how these characters are going to meet. I know the solution, and then the things just come together. Just kind of write themselves almost. As long as you know the world in which your characters live, the conflicts and who the characters are, their psychology, the script will write itself.
Oh. Vincent, you being a writer, do you have anything to say to your process of writing and writing these stories?
I think it always starts with one idea that you really love and that you want to pursue, and you always think it's great. At least for me, I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. I really want to do it. And then you write 5 pages and you're like, this is great. And then you get to the 10th page and you're like, I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know how I can turn it into a feature. It's so hard. And you just find that, to me, writing is always a long process. It's always about trying to make it better, trying to go back to it and not giving up. I think that's the key to writing, because ultimately, your inspiration or your passion for an idea will fade at different points in the writing process. But if you keep at it and you keep sticking to it, and you're like, I really think that I can make this great, even though I don't see it right now, then it turns into a great script. I know that the pilot that I mentioned that's in the top 50 of the Launchpad competition this year that I wrote with a co-writer of mine who was my screenwriting teacher in college, and now we're friends. We've been working on it for over a year and a half now. And we keep rewriting constantly. We've actually gotten an offer to option last year, but we always keep improving, and it never stops, I think. And I agree with Ralph. Oftentimes when I get stuck on writing, it happens less when you write with a partner. I would say write with a partner, it's really great because you can have your idea bounce off somebody. But when you're alone and you get stuck, it's good to take a walk, not think about it, or think about something else, and then the idea, it will appear, clearly to you after a while. Like, of course, this is the solution to this problem, oftentimes.
Yeah, I kind of find that the solutions, as I said, I'm only 50% responsible for finding solutions. I just set up the characters, and then it's like, I got this, okay, I got this. Like, it's a helmet, for example. I'm thinking of the artifact. I have this helmet that I don't want to use. I want to build a new helmet. What are we going to do with this old helmet? Wait a minute. The cops are going to find this old helmet, and they're going to recover it. So that could be enter into another scene. Okay, that's the result itself.
That's great.
So it's just, I think as a writer, you just have to put yourself in the world, and then if you commit to it, then 50% responsible. The rest of it would just kind of, you stay in the world, and then the world will write.
And I think plot is always easy. You can always figure out a plot. That's not hard, figuring out the beats. What's hard is...
Sorry, you were. I didn't hear anything.
I was saying plot is not hard. You can always figure out plot elements, like how to get from point A to point B. Yeah. What's really important is staying true to the characters as you're doing it, and to your theme and what you want to say. And that's the hardest part. Because I remember on, again, on that pilot that I'm writing with my partner, it's set in Antarctica. It's a thriller set in Antarctica. There's a murder, and there's a U.S. Marshal that's sent out there, and he can't fly away for 6 months because there's no planes in and out of the continent. So it's basically stuck in a base with a murderer on the loose, and like 50 people in this station. And my co-writer came up with an idea. He was like, well, what if on the victim there is a tattoo with the name of the marshal? And the victim was killed before the marshal got there. And we were like, but how? I remember saying, how is this possible that there's a tattoo? How is that? And then we were like, this is too good of an idea to pass up in the script, too good of a twist. So we have to figure out a way to make it work. And eventually we did. It was not hard. It was not hard to figure out the plot in the end. What was hard, it was coming up with the idea that would work for the script and that would be true to our story. That was the whole.
Vince, I have a question for sorry to interrupt, but be honest with this. Like, as a writer and director, sometimes doesn't the choices of, let's say, locations can determine what you're going to write. I had that experience with the artifact when I wrote like the scene where the characters are going to move, and I had like, oh, they're going to go to like the basement and just appear in the bedroom. And the guy that was showing me, I'll tell you a little interesting story. The guy was showing me the setting where I was going to film like the meeting between the artifact and Steve character, right? And he's like, oh, we have this like secret room in there. Like if you push this door, there's like a secret room. It's like, it's not my script, but I'm going to have to write the script for that. I have to figure out how to get the character into the secret room. It's like, how am I going to get the character out of it? Okay, then my buddy's got this really cool elevator. So I'm going to basically, so we're in like in someone's unconsciousness anyway, so it doesn't matter. So we're going to go into a secret room. We're going to put a cool chair there. The woman's going to speak to her. And then she's going to come out and go straight into the elevator. It's like, it's going to make perfect sense.
So you wrote this script based upon like your location.
Yeah, the locations. Awesome. Yeah, like it was going to be so boring because we're going to be like, the characters are going to like be somewhere and they're going to appear on second location. And it turned out that if you watch the short film, there's like 3 or 4 sequences of locations that were based on like the stuff that was presented to me. Like this guy had this elevator and there was like this rope, right? I was like, how about this like female grabs this rope? And then she comes up to it and then she's like, well, that's going to hurt my hand because it was like metal. So we put this like cool glove in there. And I was like, well, this would be really cool. There's like, Chanel is like a smaller woman. She's like 5'4" maybe. She grabs, puts his glove and pulls this rope on there. There's like this. There's strength in that motion that really drove that scene. So even though it's not in a script, you're like, okay, shit, figure that out. So I think you put your writer's head and the director's head at the same time. They kind of merge to get more.
Definitely. I mean, I think at the end of Melted, there's that moment where the cashier comes out and she gives him the chocolate and all that, and she sits with him. And in the script, it was actually written differently. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I know that she was coming up to him and she would sit down and give him some, I can't remember exactly the beats, but then on set, the actresses, I think I didn't give her specific directions about what she should do. So she kind of used her instinct and she did something that wasn't in the script, right? But it just felt right. It just felt heartfelt and true. So we kept it that way.
Yeah.
You know, and that's definitely more important than what was written on the page, I think. Ultimately, you know, a movie is written 3 times, right? Yeah. So when you write it, direct it, and then edit it.
Yeah. Right. Can I tell one more story? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. So I don't know if you've seen The Artifact. So I'll tell you one of the biggest screw-ups in my film was this. So we're filming, you know, you sometimes film based on the location, right? So we're filming in the location at one of the producers' house. You know, the ending scene and then the discussion with the 2 male characters. They're arguing about something. And it's a full-day production. I get there in the morning. Everything's working perfectly. And my lead actor, that's Steve, you know, the guy that wears a hoodie and then a blue shirt, he comes in. The first thing I ask him, like, oh, you make sure you have 2 shirts because we have a change of shirt scenes, right? Yeah, of course I have it. So we go through all the scenes and we shoot out of order. And I'm like, by the night when we do the gimbal, the jib arm outside from, you know, when the character dies outside, we shot that first and we come back to the room and we shoot all the scenes. And I'm like, at the end of the night, it's like, oh my God, everything went so well. And I go home, sleep, and I wake up in the morning next day, and then the actor texts me. He's like, holy shit, I forgot to switch the shirt. And I'm like, oh my God, half of the scene is gone because he forgot to switch the shirt. So I'm thinking like, okay, we need to resolve this issue with writing. I'm thinking, okay, how do we solve this issue? So it's like, okay, so we have this scene. Okay, so if this guy comes in wearing the wrong shirt at the last scene, how do we make the solution? Okay, so he's wearing this blue shirt. We're going to put him into the scene. Then there's going to be another scene where he freaks out because he sees blood on his head. The blood's going to bleed on his shirt. He's going to rip his shirt apart. And then we're going to cut to the other actor. And next thing, we're going to have the actor with a hoodie. And then that's going to flow to the next scene that we already screwed up. And it came out to be one of the most dramatic scenes.
It was a really great moment.
But basically, this guy's like, that blood coming out of the shirt, that was a fix to a screw up of our filming, because we screwed up and he was wearing the wrong shirt. He was supposed to be wearing the blue shirt at the end scene, but he was wearing the hoodie. So it's like, how do we transition that? It's like, do we reshoot
That's
the
very
whole
creative.
Wearing the
that
blue
is very
shirt?
Creative.
No, I was like, since we're already in this unconscious and this guy doesn't really exist, we can have anything. So like, bleed on this shirt, rip your shirt apart, you freaked out, done.
That's a great story.
Right.
You know, and that's a great story.
So,
and it's, you know, it's a reminder to all of us that, you know, if they're, you know, for continuity purposes, if something is a little bit off, it's okay. Just add another scene or, you know, write something else.
Yeah, you can squeeze a scene. Yeah, exactly.
Put in an explanation for why it is the way that it is. That's great. Well, you know what? I will end, you know, by just saying this last thing. So it's really interesting because with Coming Home Again, even though writing is so important, another aspect too is just really trusting the actors, you know, and this is where the really good actors, you know, get separated from the amateur actors. And I say that because in Coming Home Again, there was no script. And if you ever check it out, it's just based on an essay. And it was, I think, an experiment that Wayne decided to try. He pretty much told us how he wanted the scene to go. And he just completely trusted the actors to act out what he was thinking. And I had never acted in a project without a script before. So that was just, it was very, very interesting. But yeah, take a look at the film. You know, if you actually take a look at the film, like, just watch it with like the understanding that there's no script. Everything's improv. So a lot of the scenes that I have with Justin Chan, where he's my brother, you know, it's all improv. It's all stuff that I just made up on the fly.
Is it like one take?
There were
a
couple takes, but there were a couple takes. Like we would improv, and then Wayne would give us adjustments, and then we would just do it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
That's cool. That's cool.
I think as like an artist, as an actor, it was very fulfilling. You know, it was almost like a workshop, you know, where we were just there and we had the freedom to just say whatever we wanted. We weren't tied up with, oh my gosh, I said the wrong thing. Oh my gosh, I missed that line. It's like we were able as an actor, and I'm speaking as an actor, I felt I was able to be 100% present in that moment, you know, because there was nothing that was getting in the way, you know, of me, you know, being present with my brother or being present with my mother, you know. So it was just, that's another, you know, that's another thing that, you know, you all can kind of potentially experiment with, you know, in the future and see how that goes. I think that's also when your directing skills really come into play too, because it forces you to just really like look at the situation, see how they did it, and give adjustments, give direction, right?
Right. But I think that speaks to a little where we talked about the writing process. If you really commit to the character, either as an actor or as a writer, the character will write or act.
Yeah. You know, and this is
right, because it's commitment to the scene, to the world, and the character that behaves
oh,
within
absolutely.
the world, right?
I think that I think it's so, and again, like I said before, this is when the really good actors separate themselves from the amateur actors, because I feel like really good actors know how to create that world, and they will stay in that world, and they will have thought about the nuances of each character, you know, and all you have to do is just put a camera on them and just let them do their thing, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, I just thought that was so fascinating. So the great thing is all of the films are available on demand. So you can watch them whenever you want. The Film Festival Village is actually going to be staying open until midnight Tuesday. It's, you know, the festival ends on Sunday, but it's going to give everybody an extra day to check out the films, you know, that you guys want to. So you guys, thank you so much for spending your evening with me. This was wonderful. And thank you so much for creating and for giving me films to showcase, you know, at the festival. It's been awesome. And I will go ahead and I'll send you guys the recording to this so you guys can use it however you guys want.
Oh, and I just want to say,
thank you. Nice meeting you, Russell, Vincent.
I just want to say Eric had a little trouble with his connection, but he is very thankful for you featuring us, and it was very
happy. Oh, great! Yes, no worries.
You gotta check out your film.
It's all in the on demand.
Yeah, no, I'll go on there. I apologize, I didn't see it because I came in late.
I'm excited for you to see it.
Pitching session.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, and Chris.
Nice meeting you all.